a couple of weeks ago. We were in Ukraine at a conference, and one of the speakers was the CEO of Cambridge Analytica, the company behind the Trump campaign, Brexit, and a whole bunch of other things. And it was really strange talk because he was so nice and he was so casual in his talk. But some of the stuff he talked about that they could do, you were just sat there like, what? And yeah, like not only do they have so many individual metrics on you, they can actually change like the content of adverts on the fly to suit you at the time.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How do you like the conference so far?
It's good. It's good. It's always good. It's sad to hear it might be the last one.
Really? Yeah, but
it's
not really the last one. It's just going to have a different name, right?
I'm going to have to tell them how to pronounce headspace correctly, but yeah.
Yeah. And what was your favorite talk so far?
I think actually it was one of the people from Spice Factory talking about chatbot design. It's something I've been very interested in because I do a lot of writing, and chatbots, no matter text or voice, all require good writing. So it's something I'd be very interested in. And it was a good talk. It was a good mixture of like why you'd even want to make one, and the product decisions, how to actually code it, but then also the ideas behind coding. Like it was a nice mix of topics. Yeah, that's pretty good.
And what have you been up to lately?
I've been thinking a lot about half my job I go as a journalist to a lot of tech conferences, and I hear lots of people's crazy ideas, and sometimes they're just bad ideas, but sometimes you hear people, engineers who are somewhat idealistic, who have great ideas without thinking about the repercussions of some of their ideas. Yeah. And so my talk's a little bit about that, about thinking about what you code and the potential for abuse it might have, and that kind of stuff, ethics in code and things like that. Yeah.
Okay, and what are your concerns? So just give me a few one.
Well, I think the main one at the moment that's popped up quite a lot is, there's also at the same time been this big discussion around diversity in tech. And sometimes that has a kind of very direct impact. Like, you go to lots of events and it's just white guys everywhere, and it's just people reinforcing each other's ideas. But in the long run, it has a negative effect on the product as well. Like there's been these examples of facial recognition algorithms that don't recognize Asian people. And things like that.
Please open your eyes, right?
Exactly.
That was one of the.
So that kind of, actually has a real impact on the product as well, because if you just have a bunch of white guys coding something, then they only ever think about the users as the same as themselves, and so it has real world kind of knock-on effect in the long run as well on the product. And so that's some of that. Also, there's classic examples in history of people like Einstein, a great scientist whose invention got used for terrible things, and it wasn't really what he wanted.
Yeah, I mean, probably he didn't mean to create the tools for building an A-bomb, right?
No, but engineers don't think about this stuff, and it's a shame. But I think we're in a world now where we can be more connected to each other and know what could happen, and we can be a bit wiser. In those days information moved slower, but now you can be a lot more connected to what's going on with developments and things. So
I mean, the world has also become like smaller in the sense that you can develop something in, say, Russia, and it's released immediately worldwide, right?
Exactly. Data sets is one thing, because you can always get photo archives for training data, but just a person to tell you this may not be a good idea. I think that's sometimes the thing that's missing.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean,
when you treat people like data sets, you're gonna get
not so good results, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, and I think this is the kind of the further discussion on this point, which is where my talk is sort of going, is at the moment when we have people making these decisions, at least we can have some people who step in at some point and say, hey, this isn't a good idea, this isn't right, we need to change this. But now we're getting to a point where systems are going to start automating themselves. And if you have robots making judgments based on ethnicity and things like that without a programmer really kind of knowing, then that's where it starts to become a bit problematic, I think. That's what kind of bothers me the most.
Yeah, actually, I had a different discussion on the same show with Mark Weiner.
Yeah.
He's a UX researcher who researches this AI topic. And he told me about an AI system that was meant to decide if someone was likely to commit another crime while they are being trialed.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh God, this is starting to sound like too many films.
So that's a decision that judges used to make.
Oh yeah,
and that was a more normal thing. But now they teach a system to make this decision, and the way they did that was they looked at previous decisions of judges, and what it picked up was that whenever someone was from a black neighborhood, it would say they are likely to commit another crime because the judges had already racial bias, right?
Yeah.
So, and that happens.
And statistics, but statistics are not everything, you know.
Yeah.
It's like there might be a guy from, and we'll use the word guy because it usually is, from a poor neighborhood that shows up as that kind of area, but maybe this person is, you know, just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and you know, I think actually it's interesting though on the positive side of this. I see like where this might become useful is, say, one thing I've been thinking about a lot, and I've lived in 3 countries, and to be honest with you, I've never had a good experience when it comes to doctors. Like doctors in all the countries I've lived in never have enough time, no matter how much money you pay, they never have enough time, they never really look at the whole picture. You go in, you say I've got a problem, they kind of say, oh, it could be 101 things, come back in a week, try this, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, if you look at like a TV show like House, for example, you know, go to an extreme. You know, there's this kind of attitude of let's go and look at where they live, and maybe there's an environmental problem, or maybe they live next door to a factory that's pumping out horrible chemicals all day long, or something like that.
Yeah.
And when you ask a person, like, what's the pain like? What does it mean? You know, what does what they say mean, and what does what a doctor say mean? You know.
Yeah.
So it's very inaccurate. And an AI could actually help in this instance by calculating based on where you live and where you work and, you know, what you commonly do in a week. Say, a bunch of different facts that humans would not even think about. And that's one positive area I can think of.
And that's exactly what Watson is doing, right?
Yeah.
So, humans kind of have an ability to abstract things based on a really small number of samples, right?
Yeah. Or we form an opinion anyway. We might not be right, but we can form an opinion anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this is where it comes back interestingly into the ethics side again. You know, there's been a lot of big movers in the AI business in signing this agreement to not create certain sorts of intelligences, but I'm sort of it's a nice move, but I'm somewhat skeptical. I don't know. Like, so what? I mean, is it going to matter? Is it going to matter because some people signed a letter? I don't know. You know, plenty of countries signed agreements on other things that they don't stick to.
I mean, the problem is that you can't sign an agreement between the US and Russia and whatever countries that we are not going to create autonomous weapons, right? That was the whole thing about. And that's actually sounds like a good idea, but on the other hand, that same treaty would probably not be signed by a country like North Korea, right?
Yeah.
be aware that deep learning, even though people think that it's something difficult or to learn or difficult to do, yes, it takes a lot of experimentation and you have to become an expert, but it's not like you cannot learn it at home.
Yeah.
I mean, I started learning this whole thing less than a year ago, and I already built pretty awesome stuff with deep learning, and I didn't even have a mentor. Right? So if, maybe not in North Korea, but because they don't have the internet that.
I'm sure they have access to the things that might be useful.
Yeah, but you know, if you think about something else, if you think something about an organization like ISIS, if someone from their circles would learn this technology, I'm pretty sure they would be able to create horrendous stuff with these tools. And the thing is, a few weeks ago, there was this AI that came out that could tell your sexual orientation.
Yeah,
based on the photo.
That's in my talk as well. Yeah,
and and the thing is, a lot of people have attacked them for doing this.
They claim it was actually meant as an activity to get people's attention to the issue, but I don't know. Maybe they said that later. I'm not sure.
No, I'm pretty sure that was their goal, because the thing is, doing that, I can actually reproduce that paper pretty easily, because it's not that hard to create an AI right now that does something like that. It's actually, if you come to my talk today, which will be pretty soon, I will actually show people the method of creating an AI like that.
Okay.
And it's something you can learn within a month, less than a month. And you can then recreate that thing. Now the problem is, if they had they not created that AI, probably not many people would be thinking about this problem.
Yeah.
Right now, people are thinking about it, but if they hadn't done that, then probably some dictator would come up with it, and then he would use it for horrendous stuff. Right now, we have a chance to address this issue.
It's like the thing with white hat hackers, of highlighting issues before someone else does.
So I think ethical hacking is a great example.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. I mean, and that's where it starts to get. We talk. It was actually an interesting thing. I always remember that Snowden said when he said, people asked him when he revealed all the NSA secrets, like, are you worried? And he's like, well, at the time with Obama and the NSA, he's like, I don't actually think they have the wherewithal to do anything with it anyway. but I mean, you never know what's going to happen in the future, and that's always the thing. What if this whole face-off between North Korea and the US happens, and what if America got invaded? And all this technology they have is currently available to North Korea. That would be
that would be pretty bad.
I don't know, and
I mean, even if you think about it, when Obama was the president of the United States, I probably wouldn't have worried about the data that is being collected by the NSA. But right now there's a different guy in the White House, and that guy is not that nice or whatever.
I don't know. We start to get into territory of like, if you worry about everything, you never accomplish anything. So you have to just hope that the majority of people will do the right thing. I think the more realistic areas that it's really hitting is like this little effects on people of the filter bubbles and things like that, which is actually another thing in my talk. A couple of weeks ago, we were in Ukraine at a conference, and one of the speakers was the CEO of Cambridge Analytica, the company behind the Trump campaign, Brexit, and a whole bunch of other things. And it was really strange talk because he was so nice and he was so casual in his talk. But some of the stuff he talked about that they could do, you were just sat there like, what? And not only do they have so many individual metrics on you, they can actually change like the content of adverts on the fly to suit you at the time, and things like that. And I mean, an advert is an advert or whatever, but adverts can be used for many different things, and
and people can be influenced pretty well with advertisement, right?
Yeah, and that in some respects is where it's almost, it's that whole aspect of when you look at dystopian futures, you kind of have the Brave New World where everyone's just distracted by pleasure and happiness, and you have 1984 where everyone's kind of oppressed. And actually, the realistic option, and even Orwell agreed with this, is it's more likely the Brave New World. Everyone's distracted by buying and spending and having fun and drugs that you don't notice what's going on. And that's actually more sinister and harder to notice.
I agree.
It's easy to notice when you're being oppressed, but not so easy to notice when you're being distracted all the time. And and again, I like Facebook to me is a company where I genuinely feel that even the people at the very top didn't necessarily set out to create what they've created, and it just kind of happened. And I don't know.
I'm really sure about that, actually.
Yeah, sometimes engineers even at Facebook will make a feature that they think is a cool idea. It's basically the point of my talk. Make a feature they think is cool, and then. Facebook especially, because there's so many hundreds of millions of people who use it, everyone says, whoa, hang on a minute. That's not a good idea. Like there was another example this recently in Google Maps where they apparently it was like the quickest feature released to be withdrawn ever, where they were showing users in the US if you walked how many cupcakes you could have eaten, and then suddenly all these food mental health organizations and food eating disorder organizations are like, oh my god, that's a really bad idea, and it got taken down within about 2 hours. I think it's kind of crazy, and it's just I don't know, I think this is basically the point of the discussion, is think about this stuff. Actually, I should put that example in now, come to think of it.
The cupcake example?
Yeah, it's very, very recent. So it's, and I think engineers, we have idealistic visions about things, and we think, hey, this is this cool technology, and again, it's that whole testing thing as well. And you can test, you can automate tests, you can unit tests, but it's not the same as having 100 million people using something. Unfortunately.
That's one of the things that I usually tell my people, that I really find it's really important that you are tests. That's really important. But what's even more important is monitoring. Yeah. and you gotta monitor the things that you release, because you can end up with pretty bad stuff otherwise.
Yeah. And there's only a handful of companies that really have the luxury of being able to release to that many people and get such quick feedback.
Yeah.
A lot of us want to do A/B testing, but you're doing A/B testing with a few hundred people or something, which doesn't tell you that much.
It's true.
I don't know. It's and this is basically where people like myself and you try to step in and sit between technology and normal people and translate a bit, I suppose. But then you come to this problem of, like, I go and do a lot of non-technical talks at technical conferences, and trying to get people in the room is the challenge.
Yeah. I mean, people are a lot of people are more likely to go to talk that says, "Hey, this is how you use NPM and whatever thing." Yeah. And then what I find is that the best talks at conferences that I like the most are usually non-technical in nature.
True. You have to sneak it in. I think I saw a really good talk from Ted Nedwood at Devox in Krakow, and he pretty much every slide was code, but it wasn't really about code. So he kind of tricked people by making it look like a technical talk, but it wasn't. It was quite clever, and that's how you got to do it.
It's a nice thing.
Yeah. And then people walk out going, hang on a minute, I didn't learn anything about code there, but I learned something else.
That's a nice trick.
Yeah.
Gotta try that.
Yeah.
I mean, I also usually talk about management stuff and more like non-techie things that relate to software development, and it's also an important topic.
Yeah.
But right now I'm going to talk about something that's actually code. So this is something I usually don't do.
I think I'm reluctant to show much code in my presentation these days because the kind of level I code at now is such a basic level. I would probably feel embarrassed to show it.
Okay.
I don't know. And I'm something of a generalist, you know. I write so much code, but it's always very basic stuff. So I know lots of little things without much detail. You know, even coming back to the JavaScript world recently, I hadn't really encountered things like promises. I'd been away from the JavaScript world for so long. I encountered promises, and for a couple of months I was like, what on earth is this stuff? and then it finally clicked with me and I realized how cool it was, you know?
Yeah. I mean, promises are pretty hard to understand.
Yeah.
And I feel like there are a few things like that, monads and promises and deep learning are all things that once you understand it, you suddenly lose the ability to explain it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the last time I had much to do with JavaScript, jQuery was still cool. So.
Yeah. That was a long time ago.
It was like 2009 or something. So yeah.
Yeah, and I actually started working with JavaScript when Prototype was cool.
I think I think Angular was just starting to appear, but it was still kind of like don't use it in production yet.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I don't know. I was doing a lot of mobile stuff. Anyway, yeah. Mostly these days doing documentation for various companies. I don't really specialize in any particular field. I guess I specialize in developer tools, but no particular subset.
Okay.
Yeah, working with a database company, event streaming software, a mapping software, 2 logging companies. Yeah, so developer tools, but no particular area really.
Okay.
Which is interesting. It's actually kind of fun because I get to play with stuff, and usually I don't get bored with it. But I never get bored with it because it's always a never particularly deep level until you move on to the next thing. So,
yeah, I get that.
It's kind of fun actually, and I guess sort of summary words is like, I do a lot of documentation work, and we've seen lots of surveys from GitHub, Stack Overflow, and many others talking about the importance of documentation, but that people don't want to do it, or it's hard to do, or it's not cool to do. But keep trying, and I will keep encouraging people to try it and show them how it's not as hard as you may think. Or there's crazy people out there like me who like doing it, so we'll help you.
Okay. Well, I personally am not the kind of person who does documentation, but I kind of have so we work in an environment where the things change so far. We do have a documentation team, but they just can't keep up. So it's impossible.
Sometimes a problem because you're usually I've been in companies where I've been the only person, so it's it can be hard to keep up.
All right. So, I think we arrived. So, thank you for being here.
Well, it was quite alright. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's get out of here.
Goodbye. Thank you for watching this episode. I hope it earned your subscription. But while you're here, let me show you something. The people behind me are playing a game called Lean Poker. It's a fun and exciting way to learn how you can deliver value much faster than you have ever imagined. It's exciting. The link is in the description. Check it out if you want to support this channel.